Our industry is grappling with uncertainty. At the 2025 National Restaurant Association Show, you'll explore innovative solutions, strategies, and partnerships that will prepare you for whatever comes your way. Take it from me, the show has everything you need to elevate your front and back of house. You'll see, touch, taste, and demo the latest trending products across more than 900 categories, including food, beverage, technology, equipment, and more. Don't miss the industry's most trusted event taking place in Chicago, May 17th to 20th. Secure a badge by May 9th to save $30. Register today at nationalrestaurantshow.com. Rate quoted ends on May 9th and applies to operators only. Non-exhibiting suppliers are subject to a higher badge rate. Please check out the show's website.
How does Chili's keep doing this? Hello, this is Jonathan Mays, Editor-in-Chief of Restaurant Business. And in this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, I speak with George Felix, the Chief Marketing Officer for Chili's parent, Brinker International. We caught George at the recent Restaurant Leadership Conference and wanted to do a deep dive into Chili's marketing efforts and how the company has taken advantage of social media attention to the brand. George talks about the way Chili's took advantage of consumer frustration over high fast food prices, which really revealed itself on social media over the past couple of years. He details Chili's thinking as it elevated one of its limited time offers to take advantage of this. He also talks about social media in general and how Chili's recognized consumer affinity for cheese pulls. He also talks about the company's lifetime movie, and we also just generally talk about marketing. This is a fascinating conversation with one of the up-and-coming marketing stars in the restaurant industry. So we're talking Chili's and marketing on A Deeper Dive, so please check it out.
All right, I am here with George Felix. George, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Jonathan.
All right, so first off, tell us about yourself. What it is, what do you do?
I am the Chief Marketing Officer for Chili's Grill and Bar. I've been at Chili's for just under 3 years now, and so what I've got under me is all of the marketing, advertising, social media, culinary innovation, beverage innovation, as well as planning out all of our calendar, our digital experience, like website, CRM, app, as well as the digital experience for our team members.
So what did you do before that? You were with...
So my career, I've spanned a few different industries. I started in marketing at Procter & Gamble. Worked on the Old Spice brand, if you remember some of those fun campaigns. And then made the jump to food at Yum Brands. And so worked at KFC US, then spent some time on the KFC Global team, and then ended up moving to the Pizza Hut US business. So that was over the course of about 6 years. Then I took a hard left turn out of food and became the CMO at Tinder, the dating app. So if you want to get into any of that, I can tell you some good stories from there. And then found my way back to food here when I joined Chili's about 3 years ago.
Is there any difference, like when you're marketing food, is there any like different mentality as a marketer versus deodorant or dating apps?
There is. Now, I think there's like some things that are constant no matter what you're marketing. And then there's other things that are more specific to, the category you're in, like food. I think some of the things about food that are unique are the importance of like great food photography that is not like, and I think you could probably see it if you watch food advertising, like really craveable food is critical. And I didn't have a full appreciation for that when I started at KFC, but over time realized how important that is. There's also a immediacy to food. Like when I put an ad campaign out in deodorants, like when I was at Procter & Gamble or body wash, I mean, you're waiting months and months and months to really see what the impact of that was. I remember the first campaign we launched at KFC, there were people in my office on day 2, like, hey, what's going on? Like, what do the numbers look like? And it was, it's just it's a different mindset, but we're a real-time business and you can see the impacts really quickly. And especially in food, when you launch a campaign, you're going to know within the first week whether it's working or not.
Really?
Yeah.
And what happens if it doesn't work? Like, what do you do in those situations?
Well, you got some options. You can tweak things. If you have other stuff that's like kind of in the can that could be a plan B, you can flip the message and see if that has a different impact. But in my experience, you generally know pretty fast. So it's always a good idea to have, in the event that it doesn't work, to have some sort of plan B that you can fall back on.
Mm-hmm. So I want to ask you about well, there's a few things I want to ask you about, but one of the things I want to ask you about is last year.
Yep.
You guys decided, essentially, we're going after McDonald's, and for us in the industry, that was just that was a market. It was a notable moment last year, and to the point where it sort of got people thinking, just really differently about the concept of value and stuff like that, and things like that. And I know that that's not the only thing. That there's a lot of things that went into Chili's year last year, but it was just a notable moment. Could you talk to what was the thinking behind that?
Well, we'd been talking about what we think is the best value in the industry for almost 3 years now with the 3 for Me. And we'd been talking about it before then. What happened probably in the 6 months leading up to, about a year ago was really starting to see a noticeable uptick in just average customers complaining online about the rising cost of fast food. And it was unavoidable. You couldn't miss it. It was just people shocked with holding their receipts up. I just went through the drive-thru. How did I spend $42, And it kind of clicked for our team to say, this could be a really interesting way to frame our value against something that people are very familiar with and currently really passionate about. And so fast food just became the foil for us to say, you can sit in the drive-thru and get your, whatever food you want in the drive-thru, or you can come into a Chili's, have full service experience, get a nearly half-pound burger, fries, bottomless chips and drink, bottomless soda for $10.99. And all of a sudden, when you put it up against something that is a very well-known quantity, it does reframe value in a different way. And we really think the difference between how we talk about value and how maybe fast food or other concepts talk about it is it's a holistic equation of what you get for what you pay. And when we say what you get, it's not just the food. The food is amazing. The food is abundant, but it's also the quality. It's also the experience and everything that comes with the visit to Chili's.
Mm-hmm. So what did you do to bring that message across?
We did a few things. So one thing we did on social media, even before we launched our campaign, was we started just playing into that by saying our social media team launched something called the 3 for Me Rescue. It was show us your receipt and tell us about your experience, and we'll give you a 3 for Me so you can see what a Chili's experience would do. When we saw the response to that, we were trending, top trending topic on X for maybe 3-4 days in a row. That told us, okay, we've hit something. Now, how do we make this bigger? That's when we decided we're going to bring some innovation to the 3 for Me. We launched the Big Smasher. The Big Smasher is a flavor profile you'll recognize from the Big Mac, but it's twice the beef of a Big Mac. And, so it's something but I think on a meal you'd far prefer. And so that helped us kind of go right at it and further kind of step it up a notch to say, we've got this great burger. We think you should come try it and hear all the reasons why. It's bigger, it's better, and the complete value is better.
Mm-hmm. Did you, how long did it take you to develop that product?
Not too long. I mean, we were already thinking about how do we bring some news to the 3 for Me? And then as our culinary team was working through different options, they presented us this and we said, wow, now all of a sudden this can tie to a really compelling commercial message. You give that kind of starting point to our creative agencies, and then you can start to really find that tone of voice of how do we show, side by side on TV, how do we do this in social and really bring this message holistically across all our channels.
So was the 3 for Me created while you were there? Or?
3 for Me was already in existence. We just made some tweaks to it, and there were some items that we pulled back off the 3 for Me, mainly just to make sure that the things that we wanted in a value menu were there, but there were certain things like some premium items that probably shouldn't have been in the 3 for Me that we want to be at full price. So if you want that, you've got to kind of make a decision to either stay in the 3 for Me or get a full price entree.
So did you have fajitas on the 3 for Me?
At one point, fajitas were available on the 3 for Me. And that's an item that we think is a core item for us, that it's one of our most premium items that we're so proud of that we shouldn't be discounting that. We wanted that. If you want to make that choice on fajitas, they're available. They're a great value. They're just not going to be on our value menu.
Yeah, right. I mean, to me, I think the idea of discounting your premium items, especially when And the thing is right, Chili's is mostly company run. It's one thing, but like it becomes a bigger problem when you have franchises. But like if you're discounting your premium items, they're no longer premium.
Right. It's sending completely the wrong message, right? Like our baby back ribs, our fajitas, those are things that we're so proud of that they're at a great value, even if they're not on the value menu. But if you discount that, then what does that signal about the quality of that item? So for us, that's really kind of a non-starter for us.
Right. We heard it like the thing is about that, like, because you didn't really hear much about the 3 for Me out there that much until last year. And then suddenly I start seeing, my test is, what am I seeing from what am I seeing on TikTok? It's actually a big test for me, right?
Yeah.
And I started seeing people were sending it to me because they send me their receipts. People send me their fast food receipts.
Yeah, I bet.
And they would send me things like a TikTok there was one TikTok they saw last year about Chili's, about is Chili's cheaper than McDonald's?
Yeah.
Actually caused me to write a story on it. And
I remember.
And and to me, it like suddenly took this value offer, from one, from basically you had to know it existed to suddenly people were talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, you're spot on. I'd say for about a year leading up to that point, we were trying to drive awareness and we were making some progress. But to your point, you hadn't seen it a lot. And we were just getting back into national advertising, putting more money into our media spend. And then I think that inflection point happened about a year ago, where it was a combination of our message, which we'd been seeding for about a year, the frustration with fast food, and then the social pickup. All those things kind of happened at once to create one of those like perfect storms. And thankfully, from an operational standpoint, our teams have been working, all the way leading up to that, doing all the things to set ourselves up. We didn't know how big that boom was going to be, but if we hadn't been doing all the things to simplify and invest in the restaurants and invest in team members, we wouldn't have been ready to handle that volume.
So then you got that, and then you got Cheese Pull last year.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
How the hell that happened?
So we have a great social team, and we were already doing some influencer marketing. Honestly, at that time, we were more focused on the Big Smasher and the 3 for Me, which is probably why you saw some of that activity there. What we noticed at the same time was the social team came back and said, guys, we're starting to see like pickup on people ordering the triple dipper, particularly this fried mozzarella, and doing these cheese pulls. And so our fried mozzarella is very different than a traditional mozzarella stick. It's like a plank of fried cheese. And so there was a fascination with that. And so, I think the difference between that being a 2 to 3 week boom splat, piece of virality, and it having this, year plus long impact is our social media team really finding ways to pour gas on the fire and saying, okay, our guests are telling us that the triple dipper, there is something to this triple dipper. It's not a new menu item. It's been on the Chili's menu for, I don't know how long, but a long time.
Yeah.
And what we're finding out is it's exactly how Gen Z wants to eat. They like a variety. They don't have to make one choice. They get 3 things. Each of those things comes with a dip. It's experiential, so you're dipping in different sauces. And then this cheese pull thing just kind of took it to the next level, and that's very filmable, if you will, for TikTok, right? So all that stuff like kind of made itself, tailor-made for Gen Z. So then our social team was able to then kind of shift more of our influencer strategy around the triple dipper. And so now you've got this organic push, which is happening naturally. Chili's is now encouraging it more. And so that's kind of the origin of it. How we extended it even farther past that was, actually it was our chief supply chain officer, James Butler. He came up with an idea. He said, have we ever tried our fried mozzarella in our Nashville hot sauce? And I was like, no, but we probably should. So went down to the test kitchen, culinary team whipped it up. Sure enough, it's really good. And, just a matter of weeks later, we launched that with the whole new push with influencers. Faster than we could ever print it on a menu. We just said, let's put it out there as a secret menu item. 100 million views later, that thing's taken off. And now all of a sudden you've got a real big push. And then I think the key is the people had a great experience when they came in. Because again, the one and done, it would have been an impact for a month, but we are seeing a younger guest coming in and a younger guest coming in more consistently when they order a triple dipper, which means they're having a great experience.
So if they order the triple dipper, they're more likely to come back?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Oh.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. And it's bringing in a younger demographic, which every brand, wants to win. Now fortunately, we're winning with pretty much every demographic, but we're seeing a larger spike in younger guests in relation to the triple dipper.
Right. Now, it's one of the things that like Kevin Hochman says is that like the company was effectively ready for, it spent so much time working on operations and the in-store experience that the company was ready for, for what happened last year.
That's right.
It didn't, like he admitted now that he certainly didn't expect what happened last year.
No, I don't.
But the company was essentially ready for it. And the thing is, like, one of the issues is like marketing is really important. Like, to me, marketing on its own is just like throwing a message out there. But like, you could have, that social media thing could have hit, and we've seen this before. The social media thing could have hit. You would have gotten a big boost.
Yeah.
But if people don't get what they're wanting, you're going to lose it.
Yeah, I've seen it in my past too. Like if you have a brand that has a bad experience, the worst thing you can do is have good marketing, because people are going to come in, they got high expectations, and then if we let them down, whether it's the food quality or just the overall atmosphere, what are the odds that they're going to come back, right? So for us, I think what was so refreshing, about Chili's and the Brinker culture is we are a very operations focused company, and as a marketer, some people might say, oh, that must not be very fun for a marketer. I think it's great, because I'm learning way more about how I can be a better marketer for our team members and to enable our restaurants to deliver on the things that I'm pushing out there. And so without, the efforts of our team members to really deliver, whether it's the Big Smasher or the Triple Dipper consistently and do it in a fun way, there's no way we would be getting the repeat and the results that we've had.
The thing, one of the things about social media, though, and what we've seen in the past few years now, is, for whatever reason, social media can grab onto something.
Yep.
And then, and it can take restaurant companies like to another level. But it's also really hard to pinpoint that. Like a perfect example outside of is like, you might remember the Grimace Shake thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, and then suddenly some people decided that they're going to turn this purple Grimace Shake into like a horror story, like on TikTok. Yeah. McDonald's had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Like absolutely nothing.
They rode the wave, right?
And then you just ride the wave. But like, how do you, like you obviously monitor this stuff. And like, how do you know when, hey, this something has potential, or, that this something is something that we need to latch onto?
Yeah, there's a few things. I mean, again, our social team, Luce Bickert and Jack Haley, they are like pros. And so they know when things hit a critical mass or a volume that they're like, hey, there's something going on here. And that requires people being in those platforms daily and really understanding what's a trend, what's a blip, and being able to distinguish that. We can also see it, and you're exactly right, more so I'd say in the last few years than, in the 10 years prior of social media. And I think TikTok is a big driver of it, is you can start to see the needle move very quickly when a trend takes off. And it is crazy. It's unlike anything I've seen before. And so, I think that the key with that is I'd say most of these trends are not trends necessarily pushed by the brand. They are things that we might put out there, or they're just the customer just finding a way to use your brand in a different way. And that's where you have to be nimble and agile enough to say, if this is a trend and this is how people want to use my brand, I'm going to either embrace it or I'm not, and go for it. And I think McDonald's did a great job with that, because that's a tricky one when they're using something in a way you wouldn't necessarily intend to. But, I think they did a great job with that in terms of riding that wave for whatever that was. But for a period of time, Grimace was everywhere, and that was all anybody could talk about. And so for us, Triple Dipper was not on our bingo card at that time. But now all of a sudden we realize, man, we've been sitting on something that's really relevant. Now it's on us to go really push the envelope on that. And so you're going to see us over the next 12 months finding new ways to talk about the Triple Dipper and continue to fuel that.
So you got to kind of be ready.
Yeah.
To like as a market, that has to be a different mentality than a few years ago when
For sure.
when you're creating campaigns and it takes you a while to get them off the ground. You got to sometimes jump on stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's the difference of, again, food marketing. I think I love it because of the pace, but it does make it difficult. And I think you need teams that can move that fast. You need agency partners that can move that fast. And it's not necessarily. I think the difference also is that I think with social and TikTok and all these platforms, you can move faster now. You don't have to have the really polished creative that takes weeks and months to make. Like, it's basically, honestly, the unpolished stuff works better on these platforms. And so that enables some of that speed and reaction time.
Yeah. I speak from experience as somebody on TikTok.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not really, well, I mean, I'll say it, like for me, I use TikTok for me is marketing. It's just marketing Jonathan Mays in restaurant business. And it literally does not have to be perfect. And it's weird.
No.
Your mentality is like,
right.
I got to have the right color shirt on. I got to have this perfect background. My hair has to be great. And the most popular TikTok I've ever done is this thing I did on Quiznos. And I looked like I was hungover. I'm wearing a t-shirt. My hair I was not having a good hair day. And all that other stuff. And it did really well and picked up all these followers, and people, things like that. Of course, I also got called things like Mark Hamill, but from Wish, and poor man's Richard Branson is what I've been called. You don't have to be perfect.
No,
at all.
And yeah, I think you said it perfectly. And like, would you have ever guessed when you made that would be the one that took?
Absolutely not.
And I think it's a great corollary to like to a brand. It's like you don't know what people are going to grab onto, and so you just got to be ready. And then you got to make a call. You might not want to jump on all of the trends, and you might let some go, but that's where you got to be able to move quickly and have some trust in the people that are experts in that space. And thankfully, we've got some of the best.
Yeah. Did deodorant marketing teach you how to? Because like that's one of the. Here's the question. Like you marketed deodorant. One of the things you learned on this was marketing deodorant, and that Old Spice campaign was actually pretty incredible. Like completely changed the face of the brand. That had to really be a hell of a learning experience.
It was the first thing I worked on as a assistant brand manager out of business school. It was an interesting situation where Axe, if you remember that brand, was just smoking Old Spice, and the brand was really losing relevance. And then we found out that the company that owned Axe was launching this whole new line called Dove for Men. And so basically we were kind of backed up in a corner to say, if we don't do something, we're going to lose all our space in the retailers like Target and Walmart. And so it forced us to really get sharp and say, how are we going to use creativity to combat this competitive launch? And the insight behind that whole thing, it's something you never know what a creative is going to grab onto. The insight that sparked that whole campaign was that 60% of men's body wash was purchased by a female, be it a girlfriend, a wife, or a mother.
Really?
And so the unlock was, if Dove is launching a men's line and Dove already sells a bunch of products to women, we need to actually talk to both men and women on Old Spice as well. And that's where the man your man could smell like came from. And the first line of that commercial is "Hello, ladies." And so it changed everything for Old Spice, but we did it in a tone of voice that was very much Old Spice, not like Axe.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, with that being my first real experience, it was the power of creativity to solve business problems is kind of what stuck with me.
Right. Well, now, I mean, you've seen it like over and over again in your career because you've been to KFC and Pizza Hut and not entirely aware of anything you did at Tinder, but I also know that at Chili's, you've done things like a Lifetime movie.
Yep.
Explain that.
So we have a philosophy of there's like mainstream kind of traditional media that you got to do. And so when you see Chili's on TV, it's going to be a lot of food. It's going to look awesome. And we're probably going to be talking about a 3 for Me or 10.99. But we've got a whole nother part of the media plan that is what we call culture pops. And that is like, we want to be a brand that is top of mind, in the cultural zeitgeist and in the conversation. And to do that, you've got to show up in unexpected ways. You got to talk to different audiences, and you got to do things that will surprise people and get people to write about you. And so we are constantly looking for new ways to reach different audiences. In this case, National Margarita Day is in February. We are the #1 seller of margaritas in the United States. No one sells more margaritas than Chili's. And so it's a huge deal for us, but not a big deal for many people, other people. And so we had some fun with it. You know, there's no movies, or until we did, there were no movies about National Margarita Day. So one of our creative agencies had this great idea to say, what if we made a holiday-esque movie, but it's all about National Margarita Day? We had great partners at Lifetime. We made a 15-minute mini movie that literally aired on Lifetime. Now you can watch it on YouTube. And it stars Maria Menounos and Taye Diggs. And it's just ridiculous. It's a girl that lived in a small town, moved to New York, gets tired of paying $30 for a margarita, comes back to Ferguson Falls, like a small town in Minnesota, rekindles her romance with her high school, ex, who's now a Chili's bartender. It's just, we don't take ourselves very seriously, but it's a way to get people to talk about Chili's in relation to margaritas, which is very important to us, but do it in an unexpected way and reach an audience in the Lifetime viewer that we'd love more ladies' nights to go have margaritas at Chili's. So we're always looking for new ways and new audiences to reach, and do so in ways that are surprising, that will get talked about.
Yeah. So do you see a lift when you do something like that? Do you see a lift in sales, or do you see any reaction, or what's the?
So there's a few ways, a few things. Like, there are times, we've had some in the last, probably year and a half, where we don't always count on those culture pops to drive immediate sales. A lot of that, we have the saying that as a marketer, we've got to drive sales overnight and brand over time. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of that work is helping to build our brand cachet. So you don't always see that, but I will say in some cases, we get so much coverage that we actually do see like noticeable lifts when we do those things. But other ways to measure those things are, who's covering us? Is People Magazine covering us? The Today Show? Places that normally wouldn't be covering a brand like Chili's. There's ways to, there's a company called YouGov that basically surveys consumers every single day, and we can start to see lifts and buzz. Like, hey, people are talking about Chili's more after we do these things. And we know that buzz can lead ultimately to, visits to our restaurants. So not all of them lead to, immediate short-term sales, but some do.
All right. Super. George, this is great. Really appreciate you joining me this week on the podcast.
Hey, thanks so much, Jonathan. Big fan of your podcast. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
And that should do it for this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, which was edited, as always, by Spoons. Artwork by Nico Hines. You may find this and other episodes of the podcast on our website at www.restaurantbusinessonline.com/article/deeper-dive. And you may also subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'm Jonathan Mays, your host, podcast producer, and the editor-in-chief of Restaurant Business. Thank you for listening.
Our industry is grappling with uncertainty. At the 2025 National Restaurant Association Show, you'll explore innovative solutions, strategies, and partnerships that will prepare you for whatever comes your way. Take it from me, the show has everything you need to elevate your front and back of house. You'll see, touch, taste, and demo the latest trending products across more than 900 categories, including food, beverage, technology, equipment, and more. Don't miss the industry's most trusted event taking place in Chicago, May 17th to 20th. Secure a badge by May 9th to save $30. Register today at nationalrestaurantshow.com. Rate quoted ends on May 9th and applies to operators only. Non-exhibiting suppliers are subject to a higher badge rate. Please check out the show's website.